Not everything is a Kodak moment.
No.
But for that Kodak moment to happen, a lot of work needs to be put into it. You start to feel joy doing the mundane stuff and the boring stuff and the hectic stuff. And I think that's what I'm experiencing building these startups. I feel like it has a purpose. No matter how tired, you keep going. Even if you're running on fumes, doesn't matter. Because you believe
Yeah.
in this thing, you want to see it in the hands of more people, you want to see it add more value, fix real problems, so you keep going. And it doesn't matter how tough it gets. This all means nothing when you see the fruit of your work.
This is Money Never Sleeps. Sharp riffs, big ideas, and real insights from smart people. I'm Pete Townsend, GP at Norio Ventures. Let's go.
Money never sleeps, pal.
Rami Akila has spent 20 years building privacy and cryptographic infrastructure that most people didn't know they needed yet. Now, he's the founder of Nera Systems, solving the conundrum that's about to define enterprise AI. The more valuable the data, the less you can use it. And a quick disclosure, I invested in Nera via Techstars in 2025, so I've got a front row seat on this one. Rami, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
You've been building zero-knowledge proof systems for years. What did that teach you that most AI founders simply don't know yet, Rami?
In zero knowledge proofs, the idea was I could still prove that something is right and not have to expose my most sensitive data. And of course, on top of that, so many things were built. Some of the coolest applications were built. And the same premise can actually be applicable in AI again, which is I can do so and so with AI without actually exposing my data. Of course, everybody has sensitive data, whether it's paycheck records, transactional records. But the idea is, how can I actually build the system on top of this? It's not a question of, can I actually use it securely and privately? No, we know we can't. Again, it's a matter of how do we actually build systems that would allow for AI intelligence to be extracted while protecting our data. Instead of actually saying, no, everybody is basically saying, if this is too sensitive, then I shouldn't be using it with AI. So the answer is basically either or. And that's what we're trying to crack. But it doesn't have to be a paradox.
Almost like saying, science has proven that we are able to get a starship from Earth to Mars. What do we actually do when we get there? Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it is a problem of people not realizing that such institutions exist. And so what is happening, Pete, now is the fact that we have locked data. This is too sensitive, and we can't use it with AI because then it will be exposed. Now that they know that this can be done, all this gets unlocked, right? So this is data we can process. This is insights that we can get from our most sensitive data. And now that they know that this can be done, the opportunity becomes a lot bigger.
Give me a couple of examples. You know, when you and I first met, Rami, the things that immediately jumped out at me were the sensitivity of financial data in terms of retail customer financial services data, banks, fintechs, whatever. And also healthcare data. So your most sensitive patient data that you have when hospitals are tracking everything about you when you go to see them to be treated for a certain thing. And that is incredibly sensitive data. Now, most people don't think about the fact that, hey, could this healthcare worker just take all of my medical files and pop them into Claude and say, hey, can you look at everything else here and see what's really going on with this person? Or that a large bank would take millions and millions of lines of data and feed it into ChatGPT with all of their most sensitive client data and say, can you give me some analytics here on the demographics of all the people who might be eligible for spending more and creating more of a revenue opportunity for us on interchange on credit cards, or give us an opportunity to cross-sell. Banks, financial services providers, healthcare wouldn't just drop this data into ChatGPT and or Claude today, because they know that once that data is within inside the walls of OpenAI in ChatGPT's case, or Anthropic in Claude's case, that it's open season. And so you're not going to do that. Are these kind of the two biggest use cases that you're pointing to for being able to run AI on data sets securely and privately?
So yes, if you're in a bank or some financial firm, then you're absolutely right. We shouldn't be uploading these records to ChatGPT and Claude to get insights. The reports are basically saying it's close to 70–80% of employees use ChatGPT secretly. So we know this is happening. Employers know this is happening. In hospitals, I have friends in the medical field, and they tell me nurses, doctors are always uploading stuff to ChatGPT to get answers in seconds because they're under a lot of pressure. But they do that, violating HIPAA, obviously. We know this is happening, but those are the most obvious ones. But then you have cases where we're talking to accounting firms, and basically an accountant need to run, say, taxes on their data. They know they can just use AI and save a lot of time and actually take on more. Again, some people are just doing it, violating all kinds of client data confidentiality rules around that. So this is a solution for them. This is a solution for private equity firms where they need to run diligence. We work with CPG firms on their retailer data so they can then sell to manufacturers. You can see it playing out in every vertical because, again, if that solution exists, then I got to think of ways I can utilize this solution without having to make or accept any compromises. When you talk about sensitive data, you're no longer talking about banks and hospitals and defense. You're talking a lot about every single business and how they should protect it.
There are big companies who have their own internal AI models, their own LLMs that they're running, and that where all of the data stays within their own closed walled garden. But only the biggest and best companies with the largest tech budgets can really afford to do that. Looking at the personal journey that you've gone through, Rami, with your earlier startups in mind, was there a certain point where you realized that you've been training for this problem the whole time?
You gotta trust the process. Just go through this journey, learn, make mistakes, but keep going. Every time you fall, get back on your feet and keep going. That's the main lesson. And I'm happy that I stayed on my path because I didn't realize that I was building to this point. How I got to understand privacy enhancing technologies, how I got to build systems for different applications and domains. And I was doing that while I was doing the PhD. It was like, how do I take a really complex problem and put it in simple terms so people can understand? How do you actually go from research papers to actual products that you can ship? It all led to one point. It was like, you need to build this before it even becomes a tangible problem, because you can see it, because you've been trained to see problems in the early days. And so, yeah, every day I'm reminded that something happened in the past, had a purpose, had a reason, and it's all to get me to this point.
Through this whole process of the prior startups, your time in academia, everything that, getting to this point now with Nera, what's kept you building through the parts that had nothing to do with cryptography, all the other things that you need to do as a founder with fundraising, with pitches, with the grind underneath all of that? What's kept you going?
The fact that I'm doing something of value outside of my comfort zone. But, the more I do it, the more I enjoy it. Connecting with people, pitching, handling the boring stuff like HR and payroll and accounting and filing taxes, for doing the necessary part of what would allow for me and Nera to make this happen. On a personal note, for example, I'm a husband, I'm a father. That's what you got to do. And I love it. I'm sure it's a lot of work, right? Not everything is a Kodak moment.
No.
But for that Kodak moment to happen, a lot of work needs to be put into it. You start to feel joy doing the mundane stuff and the boring stuff and the hectic stuff. And I think that's what I'm experiencing building these startups. I feel like it has a purpose. No matter how tired, you keep going. Even if you're running on fumes, doesn't matter. Because you believe in this thing, you want to see it in the hands of more people, You want to see it add more value, fix real problems. So you keep going. And it doesn't matter how tough it gets. And you know some of the stuff that I went through and still going through. This all means nothing when you see the fruit of your work.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And it's like I'm staring at this book right now in front of me, which I've read only a bit of. It's David White, Essentials. He's Irish poet. And that word, essentials, what are the essential things you must be doing? I keep that on my desk so that I focus on that, because it's sometimes that extra 5% that you've got to put into your day that makes 50% of tomorrow happen a lot better. And so it's just whatever works to keep moving is what you need, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Very good. Very good. Well, Rami, listen, that's a great place to end it. Where can people find out more about you and Nera Systems?
Nera.systems, Nera.systems. The website should have plenty of information about what we're doing. It also has, under solutions, you'll find our chat app, where people can try it out for 2-3 weeks and see the value it can add to your data. But me personally, I'm happy to connect with people over LinkedIn. It's under my name, Rami Akela, Rami, Akela. And feel free to reach out to talk about anything, data and AI related, or really anything else. Because I'm always happy to talk about more stuff.
I can attest to that. Wonderful. Well, listen, thank you, Rami. I really appreciate you joining the show. And to all of you out there, thanks for watching and listening. Don't forget to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Helps others to find the show, and it means a heck of a lot to me. Till next time, see ya.